children, and welcome to Longbox of the Damned! For the next 31 days, enjoy tales of terror, sequential scares, and petrifying pages. And while I normally have disdain for the cape and costume crowd, they sometimes remember to embrace the terrifying. Night Terrors was an event comic from 2023 with many individual tie-in issues that we will no doubt look at over the years to come. But for now, let's talk about the event itself. Wisely, you chose me to look at this instead of that idiot in the hat over there.
Up yours, insane clown pissant!
Go and eat your hat, you simpering Santa lover!
The event's numbering is a bit weird, my children. It does indeed have issues 1 to 4, but the actual beginning and end of the story are in separate one-shots.
It's all the same story. Why not just make it a 6-issue miniseries? Oh God, I'm starting to sound like that idiot.
Anyway, Night Terror's First Blood begins with Boston Brand, Deadman, following Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman deep into the depths of the Hall of Justice because of a security alarm, where they find the dead body of John Dee, aka Dr. Destiny. Only trouble is that Harley Quinn calls from Arkham Tower to inform them that John Dee is very much alive, but having some kind of violent nightmare. Before Batman can go investigate, Deadman possesses him to say that whatever is happening is not magic as they know it. It's something primordial, something very powerful and dangerous. At Arkham, John Dee rants in his sleep about how they can't fall asleep, that they cannot allow him to find the Nightmare Stone, that it will be the end of everything. And then he dies, slashed apart just as his doppelganger was back at the Hall of Justice. Dee's body is soon possessed by a new enemy who calls himself Insomnia, declaring that John Dee hid the Nightmare Stone so no one could take it, and that his goal is to show the world how he sees superheroes. Not as heroes, but as horrors.
Bah, if that were true, I'd actually be into those dorks.
Insomnia begins unleashing monstrous nightmares into the patients and doctors of Arkham, twisting them into zombies or terrifying new creatures to serve his whim. What's more, he extends his powers out across the world, forcing everyone on Earth, but a few who manage to avoid the power one way or another, to fall asleep and into nightmares, leading to the tie-in issues. Deadman possesses Batman's unconscious body to try to escape, but then gets the idea to possess Insomnia, try to learn all he can. He gets glimpses of his history, about the Golden Age Sandman, about a cult decades past, about Dr. Destiny possessing the Dreamstone, about Damian Wayne, and how Insomnia got his powers because of events from some other storyline. But most importantly, he feels his hatred of superheroes, and how, in his dreams, they looked a lot more appealing. Fleeing in Batman's body, Deadman seeks out someone with experience in dreams to help, while Insomnia unleashes his sleepless nights to follow him and try to find the Nightmare Stone. Using the Lazarus resin, Deadman resurrects a dead hero to aid him, the Golden Age Sandman, Wesley Dodds. Equipping him with his gear, they set about trying to solve this mystery. The Sandman explains that he has heard of the Nightmare Stone. Back when he was alive, he learned of a cult of rich people who planned to sacrifice a body to possess it. He stopped the ritual, but the intended sacrifice was actually their leader, who voluntarily killed himself to try to finish the ritual. However, they had intended for the entire cult to be sacrificed, but the Sandman's intervention made it so that only their leader died, and the Nightmare Stone was unable to fully manifest. Insomnia certainly isn't wasting time in his searches, killing the son of one of the remaining cult members like Freddy Krueger, stuffing his body with money until it explodes out with coins.
Yeah, weirdly, I don't think anyone in the main miniseries references Nightmare on Elm Street, despite the obvious connection of dying in your dreams makes you die for real, go figure.
Deadman and Sandman meet up with the Red Tornado, who explains that robot superheroes and the few remaining awake humans are doing their part to try to help those in danger from the sudden sleep. Deadman, still connected to Insomnia, experiences more of his life from before he became what he is now. How the doctors at Arkham paired him up with John Dee. But any time he was awake, he would get very violent whenever the Justice League was mentioned. It seems the doctors at Arkham kept him sedated most of the time. But before they can learn more, they discover that the connection goes both ways. Insomnia and his sleepless nights are able to locate Deadman and dismantle Red Tornado. But Damian Wayne soon arrives to help. They flee in the Batplane. It seems Insomnia had targeted Damian early in a free comic book day special, but he resisted and used every technique he knew to stay awake. It's only been a few hours, but he feels like he's been awake for weeks. With little other choice, Deadman once again attempts to access Insomnia's memories of when he visited a survivors group, and he told them he didn't want to sleep because all he could see when he slept was what happened. And when the survivors suggested that one day he'd forgive the Justice League, he violently attacked them and cut off his own eyelids to stay awake. Deadman explains that Insomnia cannot find the Nightmare Stone, and it's definitely not in the realm of dreams or the waking one, so there must be someplace in between. Sandman developed a chemical gas in his day that could put the two into a state between awake and dreaming, which he uses on Deadman and Damian. The Sleepless Knights attack, forcing Sandman to defend their bodies while they search. Inside the land, they find the House of Horror, a special house not unlike the houses of secrets on the mystery, and Deadman confronts the nightmare of his own death, sacrificing himself by re-experiencing it to claim the Nightmare Stone. With it, they can save the world!
The problem, my children, as Deadman says, horror stories are unlike most other genres. Most books end with some kind of happy ending, a resolution where someone wins. But in horror, there are no victors, only survivors.
They travel to Arkham and find Insomnia's living but comatose body. Deadman explains that his real name is Christopher Lucas, a killer who refused to sleep, so the press called him Insomnia. He was locked up in Arkham after he said that he saw something in his dreams that drove him mad. Deadman travels with the stone into Lucas's nightmares, where he discovers the source of his pain. He was actually a big supporter of the Justice League, along with his family, a wife and 3 children, who were all victims in the collateral damage caused by the fight against the evil Batman in Dark Knight's metal. Half the time, the so-called heroes cause the very problems they fight, especially the case of said evil Batman. And so Insomnia wants the entire world to see them how he sees them, as monsters, as horrors. Insomnia explains that he let Deadman see all this, just so he could kill himself in his nightmares, sacrifice himself, so that he could take the Nightmare Stone from Deadman right here. While it does wake up the rest of the world, he now has the power of the stone, unleashing his monster versions of the superheroes out to terrorize and sow mistrust and fear. Deadman is trapped in a dream that Insomnia creates for him, but the Sandman is able to bring him out of it. He distracts Insomnia while the League retrieves the Dreamstone, the ruby that gave John Dee his powers as Dr. Destiny.
Which I thought belonged to Dream of the Endless and wouldn't be in their trophy cases, but whatever.
Sandman uses it to unmake the Nightmare Stone creatures, and Deadman makes the ultimate sacrifice so that the undead hero can claim the Nightmare Stone, finally allowing himself to move on from his own ghostly existence. Insomnia is locked into a nightmare where his family is alive, but rip him to shreds. Sandman returns to his grave. Batman suspects that Deadman will rise again, but it seems Insomnia did have a bit of an impact, playing into the hands of other forces who are probably important to some other event comic that isn't horror-focused, so who gives a crap?
A nightmarish start to the season, my children. A bit action-focused, a little too loving of the heroes, but still with enough insidiously spine-chilling sights to satisfy those of us who crave the horrifying.